we've witnessed the lasting impact of his leadership. This work represents self-sacrifice and dedication. We can confidently say that President Traore is the reincarnation of Thomas Sankara, continuing to walk in his footsteps. They managed to distort history by using this rhetoric, including the history of Africa. They could pass off lies as the truth, leading to some young Africans not knowing Africa's history. My biggest regret is having spent a good part of my youth listening to radios like RFI, France 24. I've been living in countries where these radios were the only ones. We would use the programs, record their news to listen to, but after a while, there was a click. I began to understand that they brainwash us. And today a lot of nations are fighting for their survival, sovereignty and peace. And the Sahel region is part of the area feeling heavy pressure and influence of imperialism.
Très content, nous sommes très heureuses. Nous, on n'est pas vu Thomas Sankara, mais on a vu ce qu'il a travaillé. Donc, ce travail-là, qui se nous donne le courage, président capitaine Ibrahim Traore, nous peut dire aujourd'hui que le président capitaine Ibrahim Traore venait remplacer Thomas Sankara. Voilà, si on a regardé, le travail qu'il est en train de faire, c'est le rythme de Thomas Sankara.
En tant que révolutionnaire qui a fait la lutte avec Thomas Sankara à l'époque, qui était responsable des femmes de mon secteur, et jusqu'à aujourd'hui qui suis dans les Waïs, moi c'est une continuité pour moi, la maman panafricaine. C'est une joie immense qui nous anime ce soir-là, parce que nous l'attendons depuis longtemps. Nous l'attendons depuis longtemps et nous devons seulement que dire merci au président Ibrahim Traoré de l'acte qu'il vient de poser. Parce que vraiment, Thomas Sankara est rentré dans la vraie histoire du monde avec ce qui vient de se passer aujourd'hui.
Aujourd'hui, je revis. Après sa mort en 1995, octobre 1996, nous étions tous tristes. Bon, nous n'existions plus en tant que tels, mais aujourd'hui nous revivons et moi je ressens encore ma jeunesse d'antan. Le fait de voir ce mausolée et voir qu'à travers ce mausolée, il vit avec nous. Je suis très content.
And today a lot of nations are fighting for their survival, sovereignty and peace. And the Sahel region is part of the area feeling heavy pressure and influence of imperialism. And with all we are experiencing, I do hope we can honor the memory of all those people, soldiers, who sacrificed their bodies and souls and advanced our struggle against imperialism and neo-colonialism. I therefore declare a moment of silence. I'll give you a few examples during my speech to help you understand what I mean. We are at Mendeleev University, Mendeleev University of Chemical Technology of Russia. Everyone knows Mendeleev for his scientific achievements. Let me share a short story. While studying at school, there were people who didn't like certain things, who couldn't learn them successfully. And when they couldn't learn a particular concept, we would nickname them after the scientists who invented it. For example, we had students called Pavlov or Mendeleev. I personally enjoy science. I'm a scientist. One could wake me up at any time and I'd recite Mendeleev's periodic table. The same goes for the chemical equations we've spent so much time working on since secondary school. We're very good at doing so on paper. Similarly with thermodynamics. I tell you this to prove that practice matters, and we lack the laboratories to practice more. For example, we're at war. We pay for equipment, ammunition, weapons, and so on. Speaking of ammunition, explosives, Mali produces cotton, as does Burkina Faso and Niger. However, as you know, it's the cotton cellulose that's used to produce gunpowder and explosives. Why can't we do that? We don't develop practical chemistry. Similarly, you see all the types of missiles Russia builds. The latest is Orshnik, a missile that has made the whole world laugh. However, the fuel and everything else is chemistry. But can we learn how to create or develop a fuel, an engine for comparable missiles? There are endless examples to give, and the list could go on. However, I would like to emphasize how fortunate you are to be here, at the very heart of chemistry and mathematics. Russia has seen remarkable scientists in such disciplines as physics, chemistry, and mathematics. Yet, as the representatives have pointed out, history has often been fabricated. We must recognize that the wealthy do not necessarily excel in every field. It is those who have written history who often claim superiority in all areas. Today, history proves that everything is false. There should be original knowledge, as Mendeleev's periodic table demonstrates. It summarizes the point. Therefore, I encourage you to use this opportunity and learn in practice for our common benefit. If a country is weak, it is doomed to disappear in this world of predators. It must be strong. Nuclear powers are strong, they will never lose a war. We can tell you everything about the nuclear bomb, isotope fission, and energy release, but can we successfully put it into practice? That is why you should take this opportunity, as you are the key to the development of our country.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.